Should you avoid alcohol if you have ADHD? This is a question that I get probably every single week as a health and fitness coach who specializes in supporting neurodivergent women to thrive in their health and fitness. So I thought I would cover that in today's video. Now, I am not going to do what probably would make a very good YouTube video. I'm probably going against what every single growth Instagram person would tell me to do, which is to go extreme, to tell you that it's terrible and it's destroying your life. And yeah, that probably would make clickbait videos, but I do not make clickbait videos that are lying to you, that are exaggerating the truth. I want you guys to make informed adult decisions as to here are the facts, and you go and run with that, whatever you want to do with that, knowing the information, the black and white truth, not the exaggerated truth. And if that's a bit of you, you do not want BS health and fitness advice that just blows things up and makes things sound scarier than they are, then make sure that you are hitting follow, you're sharing this channel with someone who needs to see it. And hey, just let me know that you're watching it. Leave a comment below just saying hey, and I will get back to everyone because I want to connect with you guys. I don't just want you guys to be random numbers in my views or my listens if you are here on Spotify. So what I'm covering today is I want you guys to make informed adult decisions. So I'm going to be covering the mental and physical implications of alcohol when you have a neurodivergent brain, so then you can decide what you want to do. You can decide if you do still want to include it in your life, or you can decide if actually, do you know what, this is not going to serve me and I'm getting rid. So let's get stuck in. So if we start firstly from the mental side, the brain, the more mental well-being side of it. Alcohol hits a neurodivergent brain completely different. I mean, we know alcohol hits our brain and affects our brain in quite strong ways. I don't need to lecture you on that, but when you are neurodivergent, it's a completely different ballpark. So the first thing we need to look at is the dopamine side of it. ADHD brains have a dopamine deficiency. And when it comes to alcohol is something that can give us a very, very, very quick hit of dopamine. It stimulates our reward pathway the same way that eating sugary foods does, gambling does, online shopping does, all these little things that aren't necessarily super helpful for us, but with a neurodivergent brain feel really good. So if you think our brain's always craving dopamine, you drink alcohol, you get dopamine, so it feels good. And this is why we can want to drink alcohol, because it's one of those things that can give us a hit of dopamine. And what alcohol also does is it releases and promotes hormones that can make us feel a bit calmer as well. It slows things down. So when you have this constant racing ADHD brain and you can have something that can just turn the noise down a little bit, that feels good. So a lot of the time when we're wanting alcohol, or when ADHD brains are craving alcohol, it isn't necessarily the taste of the wine or the beer or the vodka, but it's that feeling of having the dopamine hit and also that calming sensation that it can give us, which feels really good when your brain is so just constantly loud and busy and chaotic. And that comes on to the second part, which is it's masking symptoms, like it's temporarily, but it can make us feel calm. There's less overthinking, there's less of that social anxiety, or am I saying the right things? And, especially if you are coming to terms with ADHD, or maybe you've been masking ADHD and you feel maybe that the way that you act in social situations, it feels uncomfortable, but alcohol can take that away. Of course, that's something that feels good. But obviously we know this calming effect kind of has like a rebound effect, anxiety the next day, those sort of like increased levels of feeling more anxious, feeling lower the next day. So even though temporarily you feel calmer, you maybe feel a bit happier, we know then it has a rebound effect the next day. It also comes with increased impulsivity and lowered inhibition. So we know that with ADHD, you have lower impulse control, right? This is why ADHDers are more at risk of gambling, binge eating, overspending, saying things they don't mean. And we know that alcohol reduces that. It increases more sort of risky behavior actions. It can enhance emotional reactivity. And how this can show up is maybe, one drink turning to multiple, even if you've planned on having just one, then maybe turning to food, even if you said, I'm not going to get a takeaway after, but then you're overeating. Emotional outbursts, being more sort of that kind of like emotional drunk, maybe saying things you don't mean. It can be doing sort of risky, silly things that you on reflection, you think, why would I put myself in that situation? But you're doing it. And of course, then comes the regret spirals the next day. And that could be the regret of just doing something a little bit silly that's ended up on the internet, or something obviously more serious of being hurt, physically hurting someone else, maybe putting yourself in vulnerable situations, sleeping with someone you didn't mean to. So it can put you in obviously quite dangerous situations that leave you with a lot of regret, a lot of shame. We know as well when it comes to alcohol, it can disrupt our emotional regulation further. We know that with ADHD, there is emotional regulation struggles. There are challenges when it comes to emotional regulation, and alcohol can make that a lot worse. So this can be why, you know, if you have ADHD, you're more of like an emotional drunk. You feel like you're crying, things get to you more, you're more sensitive than normal. Maybe things anger you, maybe you feel really triggered and you're getting into these arguments and confrontations over things that you look back and you think, why the fuck did I do that? Heightened rejection sensitivity. So feeling more upset. So maybe, you know, someone's gone to, you know, you had your eye on a boy and he's gone and kissed someone else and you're like, oh my God. I know that's a bit of a silly one, but or like if you know, you're thinking that your friends are leaving you out, that shame that comes after drinking. So alcohol's enhancing that emotional sensitivity, that emotional dysregulation that we can have. Then you've got sleep disruption. So ADHD and sleep, not always the best friends anyway. But we know that even just a small amount of alcohol can disrupt our deep sleep cycles. You then have this, it decreases sleep quality, which means then you've got to kind of like catch up on sleep. So even if you've still had 8 hours, you might have only in effect had 4 hours. So you've got this sleep debt that you need to catch up on. And then we know that with poor sleep, that makes ADHD symptoms worse. You know, it's going to increase that brain fog, those decisions, that executive functioning. It's going to increase impulsivity. It's going to decrease mood. It's going to lead to cravings for junk food. So then obviously you've got more negative coping behaviors, more negative ADHD symptoms showing up as a result of that poor sleep. And then the final sort of more mental health one is that there can be obviously interactions from a medication perspective. It can reduce the effectiveness of ADHD meds. Obviously, it depends on which ones you're on, and your doctor should have given you guidance on that. You know, I know some people are told to just not drink at all. And then obviously it can make your symptoms worse on that side of it. Then if we move into sort of more of the physical health implications of alcohol with ADHD. So when it comes to alcohol, alcohol is something that does play a role in our blood sugars, and obviously depending what kind of alcohol it is and what drink it is, some more than others. But generally with alcohol, you will see blood sugar rises and crashes, and ADHD brains are much more sensitive to these blood sugar rises and crashes, which is why if you go back to the video where I talk about foods to eat and not eat with ADHD, I go into that in a bit more detail. Because what this can lead to is irritability. It can lead to more intense mood swings. It can then lead to overeating cycles if you get too hungry. Tiredness, which can lead to more struggles from a cognitive functioning. Just those swings with our blood sugars can then make our ADHD symptoms feel worse. The next thing is increased food impulsivity. So because alcohol increases our inhibition, it increases dopamine seeking. And obviously as well, it disrupts sleep, which can impact our hunger cycle. There's more chance of poor food decisions, which if you are on a weight loss journey, health journey, aren't going to be productive. So it's then overeating the next day. It's binge eating after a night out, eating beyond fullness. Like, God, I remember back in my university days when I was living with undiagnosed ADHD, every single night out, it wouldn't just be a burger at McDonald's. It would be like 3. I have a vivid memory of waking up one morning and I had I think it was like an 18-20-inch pizza. It was freaking massive, just on my bedroom floor. And I was like, what the fuckity fuck is this? So again, if you're on a health journey, obviously alcohol in itself is calories. It's not the healthiest thing, but then you've got the food choices that come on the day of drinking, on the night of drinking, and potentially the next morning as well. The next thing that you might not be aware of is nutrient depletion. So alcohol can have a depletion effect on uptake of nutrients. And some of the nutrients involved in that can be magnesium, B vitamins, and zinc. And these nutrients are already commonly low, but really essential when it comes to ADHD. Again, if you go back and watch the video on the foods, I go into that in more detail, which can have an impact on symptoms. You've then got some challenges that aren't necessarily purely linked to neurodivergent, but again, can have a massive impact on your mental and physical well-being. You've then got a few other physical sort of impacts, such as the fact that alcohol is seen as a stressor to the body, which can impact things like cortisol, which is a hormone I'm sure you've heard of. And that can then have a knock-on impact on our hormones. So if we've got really high levels of cortisol and stress, that can have an impact on our menstrual cycle, an impact on our hormone regulation, which can then impact things like worse PMS, potentially more brain fog if you're going through sort of menopause. So we know that a lot of people actually do get diagnosed with ADHD, like going around these sort of like hormonal cycles, because it exacerbates symptoms. So again, what we can see is that symptoms can be exacerbated hormonally and in in ADHD, which can make things worse. It can increase inflammation, which can impact things like gut health and brain fog. And of course, as well, if we have got high levels of cortisol, that's where we can feel more stressed, more on edge, more anxious. That busy brain, that chaotic brain sort of thought, and I'm coming back to the mentality side of here, can be there. And of course, there are, the pros and cons of alcohol on a more general level, but of like, it's social. On a negative, it can impact our recovery from training. But I wanted to bring you guys some like more insightful information on its links to neurodivergence so you can make informed decisions, because what I don't want to do is demonize alcohol. It's got a place and a space. I'm actually in my stage of life deciding, knowing what I know about how it impacts my body, how it impacts my brain. Is it something I want to do? And I don't do it anymore. Like, back in the day when I was younger, I say that as someone who is still quite young, but my teenage years, I was drinking a lot because of the dopamine seeking, and because of like the way it helped me to mask. I now understand it was more of a coping strategy than something I genuinely wanted to do. I now actually realize I didn't really enjoy socializing and going on these big nights out, but the way I could do that and be involved and feel like I belonged was to drink. And then that kind of helped me to deal with the overstimulation and the social anxiety. And it's something that I'm if you guys be interested in me talking more about this, I will do a full breakdown of like how I've realized my relationship with alcohol has changed and why. And it isn't just because I'm now this #fitness guru. It's actually understanding myself more and my neurodivergent brain. I do still at the moment currently drink every now and again. I'm deciding whether I want to at all, but on occasion I will. But it's really for you guys understanding the costs and understanding the why and understanding the nuances so that you can make decisions like, do I want to reduce it? Do I maybe want to decide where it's worth it in my life? Or maybe I want to remove it altogether to really enhance how I feel mentally and physically with a neurodivergent brain, because it does impact us differently. It is, we do tend to have different relationships with alcohol. It's why maybe you feel like you can't just go out for one drink. You can't just have one drink. You can't have a night out without it going crazy. And so that you can make the decisions that you want for your health. I hope you found this one helpful, guys. As always, if you do have any questions on this, please leave them below. One final teeny tiny ask as well is if you have enjoyed this, please make sure you have hit the subscribe and like button. It really helps me out to grow this channel and reach more of you. And if you haven't already, please make sure you follow me on my socials. On Instagram and TikTok are the best places to find me for more content like this on your grid, on the daily. And please just drop me a DM. I love to actually chat to you guys and know who you are. I don't just want you to be a number. It will be me actually speaking to you, not AI, not an assistant. And I want to engage with you guys. But for now, I will love you and leave you. See you on the next video and have a wonderful rest of the day, whatever it is you're doing.